Did Tank's promising music career really collapse because he suddenly went deaf in one ear? Or is there a deeper, messier truth hiding behind his shocking downfall? Sure, Tank broke the internet when he emotionally revealed his hearing loss, leaving fans convinced this tragedy alone derailed his superstar trajectory. But what if I told you the real reason behind Tank's fading fame involves ego-driven meltdowns, secret industry sabotage, and explosive money feuds that not only crushed his own ambitions but also imploded one of R&B's biggest supergroups, TGT? Buckle up, because the truth about Tank's downfall is wilder, messier, and far more scandalous than losing his hearing. And the industry would prefer you didn't know the real story. Tank, real name Durrell Babbs, was never supposed to be the frontman. He started out as a background singer for Ginuwine, just another smooth voice in the R&B machine of the late 90s. But that voice, that raw, church-trained, velvet-drenched tenor, it couldn't stay in the background for long. By 2001, Tank had broken out with Maybe I Deserve, a slow-burn confessional anthem that made grown men rethink their bad decisions, and women put it on repeat. He carved out a solid solo career with hits like Please Don't Go, Sex Music, and When We, turning bedroom ballads into his brand. He snagged Grammy nominations, got production credits with Jamie Foxx and Aaliyah, and became known as the General of R&B for his vocal power and longevity. But beneath the accolades was a guy who never quite got his due. He was talented, no question, but not always marketable. He wasn't gimmicky enough for mainstream pop, and too honest to play the industry politics game. And that honesty, it would soon cost him everything. From fans to friendships to full-blown fallout with his own group. And no, we're not just talking about the hearing loss. That was just the beginning of the mess. When Tank took to Instagram in 2021, looking directly into the camera with tears in his eyes, fans were shook. He wasn't promoting a new album or teasing a tour. He was dropping a bombshell. I'm going completely deaf in my right ear, and the left is picking up fast. The R&B world stopped for a second. Was this the end of the General? From that moment on, the narrative was locked. Tank's downfall? A tragic health crisis. End of story, except it wasn't. See, the public latched onto the hearing loss like it was the reason his music slowed down, his visibility dipped, and his group, TGT, vanished without warning. The story made sense. A singer losing his hearing, tragic, believable, neatly packaged, but the problem is, that's not actually when things started falling apart. Tank's music had already been fading from the charts. TGT had already collapsed in spectacular fashion. The hearing loss was heartbreaking, but it was also a convenient cover for a way more chaotic situation. And if you dig just a little deeper, it becomes painfully clear that Tank's real problem wasn't his ears. It was everything and everyone around him. Because before his diagnosis, Tank had already been caught in one of the messiest R&B group breakups we've seen in a while. A breakup full of unfiltered interviews, unpaid gigs, and public shade. And it wasn't just some creative differences. It was ego. It was betrayal. It was money. And it nearly ruined him. Let's get one thing straight. TGT was supposed to be the Avengers of R&B. You had Tyrese, the Hollywood heartthrob with a platinum voice, Ginuwine, the 90s sex symbol with classic hits under his belt, and Tank, the underrated vocal beast finally getting a shot at the big stage. Fans were ready. Women were screaming. The group had the look, the talent, and the catalog. Their debut album, Three Kings, dropped in 2013 and hit #1. One on the R&B charts, but behind the scenes, it was a hot, dysfunctional mess. And Tank has never been shy about calling it out. Here's the part the industry doesn't like to talk about. Tank was the glue, and also the one getting the least credit. Despite being arguably the strongest singer of the trio, he got pushed to the background while Tyrese played lead and Ginuwine showed up late, or not at all, literally. In multiple interviews, Tank dropped bombs about how Ginuwine would miss shows, skip rehearsals, and flake on press appearances. And when money started coming in, suddenly everyone forgot who did what. Tank was pulling weight, but getting shorted. In fact, he went on record saying he walked away from a $1 million tour because the chaos behind the scenes was just that toxic. Tyrese? He wasn't innocent either. In fact, he was the one pushing for bigger paychecks and more shine, even suggesting that he deserved more money than the other two because of his Hollywood fame. So you had Ginuwine disappearing, Tyrese demanding top billing, and Tank trying to keep the ship from sinking, while being told to sing quieter. This wasn't just creative differences. This was a full-blown ego war. And Tank, caught in the middle, got burned. Publicly, fans assumed the group just fizzled, but privately, Tank was fighting a losing battle against two grown men who couldn't get over themselves long enough to build something iconic. And the worst part? The group never even reached its full potential because the drama choked the momentum before they even got to album number 2. So yeah, Tank may have lost his hearing, but he lost everything else long before that. Here's where things get messier than a backstage green room after a canceled show. The real reason TGT fell apart wasn't lack of talent. It was money, ego, and betrayal. And not the kind of quiet, behind closed doors tension you can smooth over with a therapy session. We're talking public callouts, Instagram rants, and full-on interviews, throwing each other under the bus. Tank, being the most transparent of the group, didn't hold back. In interviews with The Breakfast Club and various podcasts, he made it crystal clear. Ginuwine was unreliable, Tyrese was controlling, and the money? Oh, the money never added up. Let's break it down. Tyrese wanted more money because he was the star. He openly demanded a larger cut, arguing his Hollywood fame brought in the crowd. Ginuwine allegedly kept ghosting on paid events and wouldn't commit to group responsibilities. Tank, he was trying to play peacemaker while watching the whole operation bleed out behind the scenes. One key moment, Tank exposed Tyrese's behavior, saying he tried to bully his way into a better contract after they had all agreed to split things equally. It wasn't just shady, it was unprofessional. And when Tank stood up to him, the group imploded. What's even wilder is that Tyrese and Ginuwine continued to pretend like things were fine, even teasing reunion possibilities that Tank flat out denied were ever real. In one clip, Tank looked dead at the camera and said, "Stop asking me about TGT, that group is done." And let's not forget the money trail. Tank walked away from $1 million tour because the deal on the table wasn't right. You think a man with 3 kids and a mortgage walks away from that kind of bag unless the situation is toxic? Come on. The truth is, TGT could have been huge, like New Edition level huge, but instead, it became another cautionary tale of grown men letting pride and politics kill the dream. And in the middle of it all, Tank, left holding the broken pieces and somehow blamed for the mess. After the TGT fallout, you'd think Tank would slide right back into his solo career and keep pushing, right? Wrong. That breakup left bruises that didn't just hit his wallet, they hit his reputation. Even though Tank was the most consistent vocalist in the group, he was now carrying the stench of a failed supergroup. And in the music industry, that's like showing up to a job interview wearing a shirt with "I don't play well with others" printed on it. Executives got nervous, labels got quiet. The same people who used to gas him up were now treating him like damaged goods. Tank dropped albums like Stronger and Savage, but the support, minimal. Radio spins were weak, budgets were tighter. You could practically hear the label whispering, "Let's just see how this one does before we invest too much." And no matter how good the music was, Tank always delivered sonically. It just wasn't translating into numbers. Why? Because the buzz was gone. It didn't help that streaming had taken over, and Tank wasn't flashy. He wasn't running around in designer fits or doing viral TikToks. He was still trying to push traditional R&B in an era where trap beats and gimmicks were running the charts. And sadly, when you're not trending, you're treated like background noise, no matter how powerful your voice is. But let's get real. Part of the problem wasn't just the market, it was fatigue. Tank was exhausted. He had been grinding since the late 90s, writing for other artists, putting out solo records, touring, and trying to hold TGT together while also raising a family. By the time the group crashed and burned, the emotional fallout left him in a weird limbo. Too famous to be new, too honest to play fake. And remember, this was before the hearing loss announcement. So while fans were shocked by the medical news, the truth is, Tank had already been quietly losing traction. The industry didn't abandon him because of his health. They started pulling away when he stopped being marketable, when he stopped being easy. And for a man who built his career on being real, that was the hardest pill to swallow. Now let's talk about the moment that had everyone holding their breath. Tank's hearing loss. Because this wasn't just your typical, "I need to rest my voice" situation. This was the kind of health scare that could end a singer's career overnight. In May 2021, Tank uploaded a raw, no-frills Instagram video that hit like a gut punch. No filters, no background music, just a man on camera saying, "I'm going completely deaf in my right ear, I'm kind of losing sound in my left, I'm dizzy, I can't walk straight." That wasn't a press release. That was a plea. Fans were shocked, celebrities sent prayers, and the internet turned Tank into a trending topic, not for his music, but for his vulnerability. People started reposting old tracks like Maybe I Deserve and When We, suddenly realizing they might be hearing Tank for the last time. It felt like a farewell tour with no tour dates. But here's the twist. Tank wasn't done. He announced he was battling a condition called Meniere's disease, a rare inner ear disorder that causes hearing loss, vertigo, and balance issues. And he wasn't asking for sympathy. He was telling us, I'm not giving up. Now that's brave. But let's be real, it was also terrifying, because in an industry where image and perfection matter more than talent, being seen as broken is career suicide. No label wants to invest in a singer who might not be able to hear, and no promoter is going to risk booking someone who might get dizzy mid-set. And you know what's worse? Some industry folks quietly started pulling away. Nobody said it out loud, but Tank noticed. Bookings slowed, interviews dried up. The machine that used to work for him started pretending like he was on pause, even though he was still dropping music and pushing through. He was fighting for his health and fighting to be seen as more than a sympathy case. And while fans admired his strength, the business side treated him like a liability. That's the cruel part of the music industry. It rewards drama until that drama becomes inconvenient. Tank later dropped his album R&bmoney, a title that doubled as both a flex and a reminder, y'all forgot who I am. But the road back wasn't easy, because this time, it wasn't just about proving his talent. It was about proving he could still perform, still tour, still hear well enough to be taken seriously. So yeah, the hearing loss was very real. But what made it worse? The silence from an industry that once called him the voice of R&B. If you thought Tank's industry drama was limited to TGT and hearing loss, think again. Because Tank's realest controversies, they didn't happen in a boardroom. They exploded on social media with the comment sections going feral. Let's start with the now infamous 2DS comment. Yep, we're going there. In a 2019 interview with Angela Yee's Lip Service podcast, Tank said, and we're quoting loosely here, that if a man tries a sexual act with another man more than once, it doesn't necessarily make him gay. Now you can imagine how fast Black Twitter lit up. People dragged him, defended him, twisted the quote, made memes, and argued all over the internet. It was chaos. Tank tried to clarify, saying he was just making a point about double standards and sexual experimentation, but by then, the damage was done. Some fans felt betrayed, others called him brave, but the controversy stuck. And the worst part? Instead of it sparking real dialogue, it became a punchline. Overnight, Tank wasn't just the R&B dude with vocals, he was the wild take guy from Lip Service. Then came the relationship drama. Now Tank keeps his private life fairly low-key, but he hasn't exactly had a smooth romantic history. He's had messy breakups, public accusations, and more than a few child support headlines over the years. And while he's now married to longtime partner Zena Foster, with whom he shares 2 children, it hasn't always been picture perfect. There were rumors of infidelity, whispers of off-and-on drama, and even claims from other women about Tank allegedly ghosting them or leading them on. And while Tank has never directly confirmed those accusations, he's never pretended to be squeaky clean either. He's called himself flawed, human, and even admitted to being toxic at times, which in the age of viral accountability didn't exactly soften the backlash. And then there's the issue of Tank's online persona. He's known for posting shirtless thirst traps, doing push-ups on Instagram, and engaging in just enough drama to stay in the headlines, but not always in a good way. For some fans, it's entertaining. For others, it feels like a desperate play to stay relevant in a culture that forgets people quickly. But here's the real tea. Tank's controversies, whether intentional or accidental, have overshadowed his artistry more than once. Between the podcast fallout, the Twitter debates, and the relationship rumors, people stopped talking about his music and started focusing on his mouth. In an era where attention is currency, Tank never had trouble getting eyes on him. But the question was, were those eyes watching out of love or just waiting for the next headline? Tank's story could have ended with a tragic fade-out, but instead, he's orchestrated one of the most unexpected second acts in R&B history. After announcing r&bmoney as his final album in 2022, Tank didn't just walk away, he doubled down. The album's deluxe edition, R&bmoney The Vault, dropped in April 2024, featuring 5 new tracks. Singles like Slow, featuring Jay Valentine, and See Through Love with Chris Brown, both hit #1. 1 on the adult R&B charts, proving that even with hearing loss, Tank's voice still commands attention. But music wasn't his only move. In March 2025, Tank made his Broadway debut in Hell's Kitchen, a Tony Award-winning musical inspired by Alicia Keys' life. Stepping into the role of Davis, the protagonist's father, Tank embraced the challenge, stating, "They got the right one. I'm built for this." Beyond the stage, Tank continues to influence the R&B scene through the R&bmoney podcast, co-hosted with his manager, Jay Valentine. The podcast delves into industry insights, featuring interviews with prominent R&B artists, songwriters, and producers. Financially, Tank has maintained a stable net worth of approximately $5 million, a testament to his enduring presence in the music industry. In 2025, Tank collaborated posthumously with Aaliyah on the single Gone, blending his vocals with hers in a tribute that resonated with fans. Tank's legacy is multifaceted. A powerhouse vocalist, a resilient artist who faced personal and professional challenges head-on, and a mentor shaping the future of R&B. His journey underscores a truth in the music world. Talent endures and authenticity resonates. So what really happened to Tank? Was it the hearing loss? Sure, that played a role. But the real story is layered, filled with ego clashes, group betrayal, industry shade, and personal battles that most fans never saw coming. Tank didn't just lose his hearing, he lost trust in his group, momentum in his career, and confidence from an industry that's quick to move on when you stop fitting the mold. And yet, he's still here. He didn't vanish. He didn't quit. He pivoted. Whether it's dropping chart-topping slow jams, dominating Broadway stages, or keeping R&B alive on his podcast, Tank has proved one thing. He's more than just a voice. He's a survivor. In the end, Tank might not have reached the superstardom his talent deserved, but he's carved out something arguably more powerful: respect. From peers, from real fans, and from anyone who's ever been told they weren't the right fit. Because while some artists fade when the spotlight dims, Tank, he turned the silence into a story, and the pain into a legacy.